Jimmy Butler, he's a very interesting player to me.
Just goes to show the offense for the Dallas Stars could not keep up. And when the defense needed to step up, the Lightning's offense just overpowered them.
It makes it almost impossible for their bats to get going or have any confidence in the locker room when you're getting absolutely hosed on the defensive end.
He's like, oh shoot, I don't know where to go with the ball because I haven't been able to think.
It's their defense, man. Mika Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt.
You saw Luka. I'm very intrigued to see how Luka bounces back after his first playoff series.
For next season, there are massive free agents like Giannis. And if Giannis goes to a team like the Heat, like I said before, I expect them to win the championship. 4 teams who could win the AFC in my mind, legitimately. Steelers, Chiefs, Titans, Ravens.
Stay undefeated when they face the mighty Cowboys with Garrett Gilbert and Tony Pollard.
It was a great series. Game 4 was one of the best games I've ever watched in my entire life.
So happy when the Astros lost because it would definitely be a 2020 thing to have the Astros win a World Series and then you have to hear them.
Now LeBron's a 4-time champion and Anthony Davis gets his first.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I was impressed by their game. Braden Point, Andre Palat, Nikita Kucherov, that was the best line in the playoffs, no doubt.
I think you have 2 established number 1 wide receivers in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, and I think you have an emerging star in CeeDee Lamb.
Hey everyone, I'm Jared Sandler, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our 41st episode. Let us know what you thought of our last episode, where some people would say we had hot sports opinions. I would say we had hot outsiders opinions. So I was hoping I'd get more than just a smile from Austin, but I guess I'll have to work on my joke game. And then today we will be going to college and doing a March Madness episode. So the first 4 games happened today. Texas Southern at Mount St. Mary's, then Drake versus Wichita State, Appalachian State versus Norfolk State, and then UCA versus Michigan State. And then we are creating our own bracket, and we're going to do that in today's episode. And we have created a group. So for anyone listening, just go to our YouTube channel. I'll try to fit it in the description of all the episodes where you can click the link and you can create your own bracket and see who wins. I'll hand it over to Austin.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a good tournament. I'm glad we have a tournament. I was very sad last year when we didn't have one, and it feels great to have what I consider my favorite sporting event to take place again this year. So who do we have in the first game?
So the first game we have Gonzaga versus Norfolk/Appalachian State. Gonzaga is undefeated right now, so definitely a good thing to watch, as no team has been undefeated and won the tournament.
Yeah, ever since it's expanded to 64 teams, the last team to go undefeated ever is the 1977 Indiana Hoosiers. So yeah, I think it's a pretty fair take to just take Gonzaga.
Yeah, Gonzaga is just incredible. And then the second game, we have Oklahoma versus Mizzou. Oklahoma does have 2 players out, so Mizzou definitely not playing the best right now, but I'm thinking that they could maybe upset. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think Mizzou's going to win that game, and I wouldn't even see it as an upset because, like you said, players are out currently for Oklahoma, and they concern me with Devion Harmon. I think it's his name. He being out. I mean, that's just. Let me fact check that really quickly.
Yeah, Mizzou does have an older group, so that's definitely a thing. Key play. Maybe they could go on a run. They did upset Illinois early in the year, but they're not playing as well as they think. Do you have that fact check or not yet?
Yeah. So it is Devion Harmon. He's out. He averages 12 points, 3 boards, 2 assists. He's a quality contributor for them, and I think his absence will lead to their downfall.
All right, so we have Mizzou with the first upset in our bracket. Then we have Creighton versus UCSB. So
UCSB. I mean, they play very well in the stat thing that I've created. They are pretty high compared to other teams, but so is Creighton. UCSB is a team that I think a lot of people underrate. Like I said in the stat thing, they're 25th out of the 68 teams in the bracket. So, I mean, they're definitely not a below average team, even though they are a 12 seed. But I think Creighton will bounce back and win this game. How do you feel?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Creighton's a good team, and I definitely have them winning and not getting upset. So I think we can move on to the next game where we have University of Virginia versus Ohio. So what do you think of them right now?
Yeah, so Virginia is going to have less practice time. I don't think they're going to be able to practice before the game as an entire team because of COVID protocols. So I think that definitely hinders their ability. Also, there's a guy named Jason Preston who plays for the Ohio Bobcats, and he's outstanding. People are calling him the LaMelo of this tournament, and he definitely is. He's averaging 17, 7 and 7, and is a definitely a premier threat. Uh, and I think Ohio wins this game because of him. Not only the 3-point shooting and their great offensive abilities, but also because Virginia is not going to be able to practice all week, and I definitely think that takes a major toll on a team during, especially a winner takes all game like this.
Yeah, and Virginia just barely beat Syracuse, I believe, off a 3-pointer, but then they got COVID. So that's definitely a thing to watch as Syracuse is an 11 seed, and we'll get to them later. So I definitely have that. We'll put that Ohio with another upset. And now we go to USC and Wichita State / Drake, depending on who wins the first game today. So who do you have?
Yeah, so I would have USC here. I feel like Evan Mobley, his athleticism, his paint presence will definitely have an effect on this game. He's projected to get right now in most mock drafts to go either 2 or 3. I don't think anybody's going to catch Cade Cunningham unless he either has a bad tournament or Evan Mobley goes really off. But yeah, I have USC. I don't think there's going to be an upset here. I do think Drake will beat Wichita State, but I don't feel like they have the firepower, especially because one of their major players is out, and USC is just like I said, their paint presence because of Evan Mobley is going to have a great effect. What do you
Yeah, it's
think?
definitely some excellent points you made. And also, just a side note, USC is the Jared Sandler's an alumni, so we definitely got to have our interview alumni school win the first round. But I think we can go to Kansas versus Eastern Washington University. Kansas, there's no really. I think they did beat. I can't think of the team without McCormick. Oh, it was Oklahoma, and but there's no really star, I would say, but like they're just a very good team, excellent ball movement. They have some good players. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a much closer game than people expect because 2 or 3 players are going to be out for Kansas for another COVID protocol reasoning. Um, so I really do not expect them to win by too much, but I still have Kansas winning. I don't really think Eastern Washington should be a 14 seed. I feel like they're more like a 15 seed. I feel like there's other teams that could have moved up, but like Grand Canyon, who's below, but Grand Canyon's obviously going against Iowa. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I honestly think Kansas will win this game, and I feel like it'll be much closer than people predict because of the players being out for Kansas. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Kansas will win, but I'm not sure how far they can go in the tournament just because there's no real star. It's just they just play as a team. But I think we can go to the next game, which is Oregon versus VCU, and I I'm thinking Oregon can win this but it will definitely be a tough game as VCU has a higher strength and schedule just a little bit more than Oregon. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm also taking Oregon. I just feel like they have a much better offense, and even though their defense is kind of lacking in the bracket thing that I made the stats saying they're 25th. Actually, Santa Barbara was 24th. I messed that up earlier, but yeah, they're 25th, and VCU is all the way down here at 54th. So, I mean, this is combining a lot of important stats in my mind, and I just don't think VCU is as good as some people think, and I feel like Oregon will get this win.
Yeah, definitely good points. And I think we can move on to Iowa versus Grand Canyon, who you just mentioned. Who do you have winning this right now?
Yeah, I think the Grand Canyon got a terrible pick. I feel like they're better than Eastern Washington, and if they were going against Kansas, I may have picked an upset. However, I don't think they have anywhere near the talent that Iowa has, especially because they're pretty healthy and Luka Garza is healthy and they're starting to play the best basketball they played all season.
Yeah, it's definitely a key thing heading into March, being on a hot streak, because teams can just go on a hot streak and make a deep run. Yeah, so we have Iowa winning that. Now we head to the Eastern bracket where we have Michigan versus Mount slash Texas Southern. So I believe I have Michigan winning this. Michigan is a good team. They did run into some trouble though against Maryland. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Mount St. Mary's runs the second slowest pace of all the teams in the bracket, only behind Virginia, or I guess only ahead of Virginia in pace. So they control the game most of the time. I think they will beat Texas Southern. However, I think Michigan, even without their best player Isaiah Livers, will still have a much better team, and they'll be clean. They'll play the way they do normally, and you won't really see the deficit of Isaiah Livers when you play against a team of this caliber. So yeah, I definitely feel like Michigan has a massive edge when it comes to this, and I expect them to win by at least 15 points.
All right. So now we move to the next team, LSU versus, I believe, St. Bonaventure. LSU just losing a heartbreaker in the SEC championship versus Alabama. But St. Bonaventure is a team that definitely can pull off the upset. What do you think?
Yeah, St. Bonaventure is a great team, but LSU has a tremendous offense. They lead all of college basketball in ISO points. So teams, uh, baskets scored without really a pass within like 5 seconds after a shot or before a shot. I mean, and I think this is going to be a close game, but I'm going to take LSU.
Okay.
I feel like LSU, because of their scoring, I think it'll be a high scoring matchup, make it up to the high 80s, almost 90s maybe. Even though it's very, very high scoring for college basketball, I feel like this game could go to overtime. And I just feel like because of LSU being in a harder conference, being in that game, like you said, in the SEC championship against Alabama, I feel like they have the experience needed, and they just played a harder schedule. And I feel like that really really shows itself in March when a team like LSU, even though they're not very great on defense, they're battle tested. What do you
Yeah.
think?
St. Bonaventure is definitely a team to watch out, but I agree. LSU can definitely win this game, and we will have them facing Michigan next round. Now we have Colorado versus Georgetown. Georgetown led by Patrick Ewing, and they did win the Big East tournament. So, what are your thoughts on them right now?
Yeah, so Georgetown. I mean, this is a hard one because Colorado lost by 2 points to Oregon State, who they really should not have lost to. Colorado's starting to play its worst basketball. They're very inconsistent, and Georgetown's starting to play their best. However, I feel like if Colorado can turn around, they could really win this game. They're pretty high on the rankings thing that I did, and I'm gonna take Colorado, even though I feel like Georgetown's a hotter team, just because I feel like it's going to have to come to an end at some point with Georgetown. I don't feel like as a 13 and 12 team, even though they won the Big East, that they're really on equal par with most of these teams they're going to be playing against. What do you think?
Yeah, and another thing to watch is, as you mentioned, it might be a close game. Um, Colorado has a much better free throw percentage than Georgetown. Georgetown was 75. That's good, but Georgetown has 82. So free throws are very important to the game. So I think that could help them lead, and we will have them advancing to the next round. Now we have Florida State versus UNC Greensboro. What are your thoughts on them right now?
Yeah, so Florida State, like always, plays a very defensive-minded game, and it's going to be hard for UNC Greensboro to get anything going. They have a great player. I'm searching up his name right now. I can't remember for some reason, even though I just saw it like 2 seconds ago. Isaiah Miller, there it is. I knew it was Miller. I just couldn't remember his first name. He's a very good player. He can dunk. He's an over the rim player. However, because of the trap that Florida State sets when you pass the ball into the corner, and just the way they play, They have experience, and even though I don't really see them going far in the tournament, I don't feel like UNC Greensboro is really a 13 seed. I feel like Colgate or some other team should have been here, and then even though UNC Greensboro, I think, had a great season for their standards, I definitely am going to take Florida State.
Yeah, so I think Florida State has that win, and we will have them advancing. Next, let's move to BYU versus Michigan State / UCLA. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think the popular pick here is to take Michigan State beating UCLA, but I'm gonna go the other way. I think UCLA will beat Michigan State tonight, and they will face BYU. And I have UCLA beating BYU. I don't really feel like BYU should be a 6 seed. I feel like they're more like a 8 seed probably. And I feel like UCLA, they have one the best passers in their history on their team currently, and I just feel like they're a more battle tested team than BYU. BYU plays in a very suspect West Coast Conference that only really has Gonzaga and St. Mary's when they play well. So I'm taking UCLA.
All right, so we will have another upset. Definitely a key thing about what you mentioned about BYU, and I think UCLA can. I will have them with the upset. So I think we can move on to Texas, which I believe won their first Big 12 championship, and then versus Abilene Christian. Um, it was definitely an incredible run by Texas, so I think they might be able to go. But what do you think?
Yeah, so Abilene Christian should not be understated. They had one of the best. They had the best defensive efficiency out of any team that's in the tournament at 76.8 or something like that. Um, they're a great defensive team. I feel like this will be a very close game, even though it is a 14-3 seed. But like you said, their Texas is battle tested. They won the Big 12. They won the Big 12 championship game close, even though they dominated that game. I feel like they're a good team playing with the lead and even coming back. So yes, I will have Texas winning a nail biter against Abilene Christian.
Yep. So we will have that. Texas did beat Oklahoma State um, in the final. Oklahoma State having Cade Cunningham, the projected #1 pick. And next we have UConn versus Maryland. Maryland did play really well against Michigan, but Michigan was able to rally and beat them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's really the thing. I don't think like I really do not trust Maryland holding leads. And UConn was one of the hottest teams in the tournament before they ran into a pretty hot Creighton team that then got destroyed by Georgetown. So I'm gonna have UConn winning this game. I feel like the Big East has really helped them, and even though the Big Ten is definitely a much better conference than the Big East this season, I feel like UConn is the better team. And Maryland being one of the lower Big Ten teams to make it, I don't feel like they're on equal footing.
All right, so there will be no upset, and now we go to #2 Alabama versus Iona. Um, Alabama, as I mentioned, able to just sneak away with that win against LSU in the SEC championship. What do you think?
Yeah, so Iona is going to play great defensively, coached by Rick Pitino, who has won 2 national championships. One got vacated, which kind of takes away from his legacy. But he's a good head coach. I definitely believe that they will come ready. However, like you said, Alabama's good at winning close games. And while I don't even think this game will be close, I think it'll be decided between 15 and 20 points. I'm taking Alabama to win this game.
Definitely agree with that. There's just no team to watch for the upset. Now we head to the southern bracket. We have Baylor versus Hartford. Baylor did get upset by Oklahoma State. But I still think they come away with this win. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. They're one of the best offensive teams of all of college basketball. I think they're second. Yeah, they are. I'm taking my stats right now. They're second, only behind Gonzaga. So yeah, I think it's an easy pick. Hartford making their first tournament appearance ever. It's a great accomplishment for a team that's never been here before, but I definitely don't think they're anywhere near the talent that Baylor has.
Yeah, definitely a tough thing to face a team like Baylor in your first ever NCAA March Madness tournament. Next, we go to UNC versus Wisconsin. I think they are close in seeding, and I think it will definitely be a close game. Maybe Wisconsin can pull off the upset.
Yeah, so it's close. I would probably take North Carolina, but it's a really close game. Wisconsin's also a good bet. Both of them are very close in the stats I did. And Wisconsin is higher on the stats, so I will take Wisconsin. Wisconsin being 35th, but North Carolina is 37th. I'm going to trust my stats. They're very close in offense, very close in defense, and it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I've definitely in the many brackets I've definitely alternated between North Carolina and Wisconsin, but I think Wisconsin pulls it off in this bracket. Next, we head to Villanova versus Winthrop. Villanova, I believe they got upset in their tournament, but I think they still come away with a win.
Yeah, so Winthrop I would actually take here. Winthrop is 23-1. Villanova's lost their best player, Colin Gaisiepi, I think is how you say that. I apologize if I mispronounced that. I just feel like Villanova, they got destroyed. They didn't get destroyed. My bad. They lost 72-71 to Georgetown. That's not getting destroyed. However, I just don't feel like their leader being gone uh will motivate them as much as it will need to beat a team that is as hot as Winthrop is. I would take Winthrop. Like I said, they're 23-1. They're playing very well offensively and defensively currently, and I would be surprised if it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Villanova's very high in the stats thing I did. They're currently ninth. However, like I said, I just don't feel like how with their players out, Colin Garcia, he again apologize if I mispronounced that, but I just feel like his absence will really hurt them. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely agree. Nova not playing the best. So we'll have Winthrop with that upset, and then Purdue versus UNT. UNT making their first tournament appearance, I believe, in the 11 years. I'll fact check that. Um, but I'm definitely Purdue. I'm suspect of Purdue, as I believe they lost to Ohio State, or they got upset in their tournament.
They
I'm
got
not
beat.
sure.
Yeah. They got beaten, and I'm going to take the Mean Green, Javion Hamlet for an interesting little quirky stat. Javion Hamlet leads the league in floaters made this season, which I feel like is a cool stat. Uh, he really leads his team. They're a great defensive and 3-point shooting team, and I feel like that's perfect material for an upset. A team that can shoot threes and can defend. I feel like they're a quality team that I feel like can definitely upset Purdue and make it to the round of 32.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that pick. And UNT making their first appearance since 2010, so that would be 11 years. Just wanted to double check that stat. But now we can move on to another Texas team in Texas Tech versus Utah State. Texas Tech did make incredible Final Four run, I believe, 2 years back. So like the last time the tournament was played. What are you thinking right now?
Yeah, so Texas Tech that year lost an overtime national championship. They were a great team, had Jarrett Culver, Matt Mooney. Both of those players are now currently playing professional basketball. So they've lost those players, but I don't feel like Utah State should be an 11 seed. I was surprised, even though they definitely should have gotten in because other wins they got in their conference, and I think they won their conference. Can you check that real quick? Who won the Mountain West? I can't tell if it was. I can't remember if it was them. I know Colorado State they played them, but I don't know if they won their conference. I think it was San Diego State that won over Utah State actually, but yeah, I just don't feel like Utah State is all that good, and I'm gonna take Texas Tech.
Yeah, I'll keep doing that for when we move to the next episode. Yeah, I definitely agree with Texas Tech. Now we move to Arkansas versus Colgate.
Yeah, just checking up on the stat I just mentioned, SDSU did beat them in their championship game in the Mountain West. So yeah, Utah State did not win the conference. I feel like this is one of the biggest chances for an upset, but I'm going to take Arkansas. Colgate shoots over 40% from three or around 40% from three. The only reason I'm going to take them is because they only played 5 teams all season. Colgate did. They went 14-1, but they only played Army, Bucknell, Boston University, Loyola Maryland, and another team I can't remember. But I just don't feel like Colgate's battle tested. And even though I think they have a good offensive system, which I think is third in all of college basketball, some crazy number like that for a team that's a 14 seed. Yeah, it's third. Offensive efficiency is third. But I just don't feel like they have the firepower to go against an Arkansas team. I think we'll defend well enough for them to win this game.
Yeah, and Arkansas is coming again from that incredibly stacked conference, the SEC. So that goes to show how they're more battle tested than Colgate. I think we can move on to Florida versus Virginia Tech. Florida, another team from the SEC. What do you think?
Yeah, Virginia Tech's only played, I think, 3 games since February 7th. It's crazy. They went on COVID protocol. But I honestly feel like Virginia Tech is the better team here, so I will take them. Even though they haven't had games recently, I feel like they will beat Florida. I don't really trust Florida right now. They've had some questionable games as of late, and I need them to prove it before I pick them.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing to mention, and I believe I do have. I also agree with Virginia Tech to um, upset upset Florida, and then we can move on to Ohio State University versus Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts with the honorary All American in Max Adams.
A Smith.
Asmus, thank you for. I wasn't sure, but Max Asmus, big. He's the leading scorer in Jesuit history right now for basketball. So I definitely have some bias, but I'm not sure if they can beat Ohio State because Ohio State played really well. They made that in comeback and forced an overtime game against Illinois. What do you think?
Yeah, so Ohio State, I feel like is just going to overpower Oral Roberts. It could be a very high-scoring game, but I still take Ohio State to win by at least 10 points. Oral Roberts does have the best free throw percentage in NCAA history. If it were to end today, they shot 82.4%, highest ever. So if this game does become close, which I don't believe it will, even though Oral Roberts does have a pretty good offense, and Ohio State has a much better offense, but both teams have a very questionable defense. So it could, like I said, be high scoring. If it does get close, Oral Roberts could make the clutch free throws, but I'm definitely taking Ohio State to win by at least 11 or 10 points.
All right, and then we will move to the team Ohio State faced in the Big Ten Championship, Illinois versus Drexel. Illinois, I think they're just a tough team to beat. They got, I'm gonna mess up his pronunciation, Desanumwa. Desanum.
Desanmu, Desanmu, I don't really know. I just call him Io because it's a lot easier to say, but he's insane. He's so good, and yeah, I'm definitely taking them over Drexel. I feel like Drexel probably should have been a 15 seed, and they definitely got a bad draw playing against such a great team. But I don't even know if it was a 15 seed they would have won, and this is definitely the best 16 seed in my mind. But I think Illinois will easily win this game.
Yeah, and Io, and you also can't forget Coburn, who's just a great big man. And he can definitely dominate down low. And I think that they can go on an incredible run. We'll get to that later. Next, we have Loyola Chicago versus Georgia Tech. Loyola Chicago did make that incredible run a few years ago, and the nun is still alive. And she will be in attendance as she is fully vaccinated. So that's just
Yeah,
a good story.
a tremendous story. So I really taking the win of Chicago. They have a tremendous defense, and Georgia Tech has the ACC Player of the Year, uh, being out. I'm currently checking on his name to clarify, but yeah, he's currently out for the team. Uh, that's a huge loss because uh, he's the leader, and especially on a team that's more better at defense and offense, it's going to affect a team greatly when their best player is out. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Loyola Chicago. I have them winning, and maybe they face a touch matchup in the next round with Illinois, but we can move on to Tennessee versus Oregon State. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm going to take Tennessee here, even though Oregon State won the Pac-12. Um, I mean, I just cannot see Oregon State winning. I feel like that was more of a fluke win than anything. Right now, I just checked it's Moses Wright who's out for Georgia Tech. He's in COVID protocol, so he will not be playing in either this round or the next round. Just wanted to clarify right quick. But yeah, I definitely don't think Oregon State can keep up with Tennessee's smothering defense, and I'm definitely taking Tennessee to win this game.
Yep, I agree with that. Tennessee coming from the SEC once again. Now we move on to Oklahoma State versus Liberty. Oklahoma State with Cunningham. So I think Cade Cunningham's going to help Oklahoma State go on do really well and win this game. What do you think?
Yeah, so Liberty is a tremendous offense, and I feel like this is going to be a much closer game than people anticipate. I'm going to take Oklahoma State. It's one of the games I'm not very confident in, but I'm going to take it because of Cade Cunningham. He's really the deciding factor for me, so I really think that's the move for right now.
Yeah, and Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State were able to upset Baylor, and we talked about just how good they were in the Big 12 tournament. Now we move on to San Diego State versus Syracuse. Syracuse just losing off that buzzer beater 3 made by Virginia in their tournament. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to take San Diego State. I feel like a lot of people are overrating Syracuse because of the run they had at the end of the season. And even though I like their team, I just don't feel like they're built against the San Diego State team that plays tremendous defense. And like I said, they beat Utah State in their conference championship, and Colorado State almost made it. So I'm going to take San Diego State. What do you feel like?
Yeah, it will be a close game, but Syracuse just not enough, and I believe that's why San Diego State will win. And now we move to West Virginia versus Morehead State.
Yeah, so Morehead State, I feel like is an iffy 14 seed, so I'm going to take West Virginia, even though I don't feel like West Virginia should even be a 3 seed. And I mean, I don't even think it's going to be that close of a matchup. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I agree. West Virginia is going to win this, in my opinion, pretty easily. Next, we move to Clemson versus Rutgers, and I'm afraid Clemson may be on the upset watch.
Yeah, I'm going to take Rutgers. Clemson lost to Miami in the ACC tournament. I really don't think they're playing all that well right now, and I feel like Rutgers will come to play in their first tournament since 1991.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rutgers is a good team, and Clemson just not playing the best, and that's a big thing you need to do right now in the March Madness tournament. Next, we head in the final round of 64. We will be doing Houston versus Cleveland State. Houston, I believe, just blew out Cincinnati in their tournament. What do you think?
Yeah, so in that stats thing I did uh, earlier this week, Houston was rated fifth, and Cleveland State, out of all 68 teams, was ranked 68th. So I'm going to take Houston.
All right, so now we head into the second round. So we'll just go back up to Gonzaga and Gonzaga versus Mizzou. It is if Mizzou's playing really well, I think they can pull off the upset just because Gonzaga hasn't lost a game yet. But I think that's a long shot. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to take Gonzaga. I don't really see them losing to this team. Mizzou's not played their best basketball as of late, and unless they really do turn it on and Gonzaga plays an off game, I really can't see it happening.
Yeah, sad thing. But now we can move on to Creighton versus Ohio. Um, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to take Ohio here. The last time Ohio was a 13 seed, the last 13 seed to make it to Sweet 16 was in 2013, I believe, and it was Ohio. I think they're going to do it again. I feel like Creighton will win versus UCSB, but I feel like Ohio's a better team than UCSB, and I feel like Ohio, because they have Jason Preston, he's playing so well. They have a center named Vanderplas who can shoot threes. I just feel like they have so many players that play well, and I don't think Creighton's going to have their best game anyway. I don't know if they're mentally there after the thing that their coach had done. So I'm going to take Ohio.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And we have Ohio making another straight upset. Next, we move on to USC versus Kansas. I'm because I mentioned Kansas not having really a star player. I'm leaning towards Kansas getting upset. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Kansas to be upset here. I honestly just cannot see them moving past this round. Evan Mobley, I think, will dominate the game. He is that star player that you're talking about the Kansas missing. I also feel like Kansas will be out a certain number of players for this game because of COVID protocol. So I would be surprised if Kansas does make it past this round, and I think USC will pretty handily win this game.
Yeah, and so Jared Sandler, I bet's smiling if he is listening with USC making it to the Sweet 16. Next, we move on to Oregon versus Iowa. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to take Iowa, and it's just that star factor. Oregon has a good team this year, but they're kind of playing inconsistently as of late. They I think they lost to Oregon. They lost to Oregon State in their conference tournament. I just don't feel like Oregon State's all that good. Iowa in that tournament, that stats thing I did earlier, they were ranked second, only behind Gonzaga. So I'm going to take Iowa. I feel like they're the better team, have the better player, and all around have a much better chance of winning this game.
Yeah, just to double check on that, Oregon State did lose. Oregon State did beat Oregon, and they won by 11 points, 75-64. So definitely a thing to watch. And yeah, I agree with Iowa making that run. Next, we go to the Eastern bracket: Michigan versus LSU. I think it's going to be pretty tough for LSU to pull off the upset.
Yeah, so it's tough. I'm going to take Michigan, but I really do not trust them in this game because Isaiah Livers is out. He's a premier defender. And if they cannot slow down, like I said, their 3 ISO scorers, it's going to be very tough for them to win this game. However, I do have them winning a very close 1 or 2 or 3 up to 5-point victory. And it's just because of their experience. LSU did not make the tournament as of late, and Michigan made it to the finals in 2018. So I'm going to take Michigan in a very close game against LSU.
All right. Yeah, Michigan, I am a little worried about how they were losing to Maryland, but they were able to come back, so that's just a thought. So we have moving on, but then we go to Colorado versus Florida State. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to take Florida State here. Like I said, Colorado's not playing their best basketball, and while I do think they're going to beat a not that great Georgetown team in their first round, I feel like Florida State's defense will be too suffocating for even them to overcome.
Yeah, I agree with that. Defense is a big thing, especially in this tournament, just in all basketball, because if you can limit the team's offense, and that's a huge key. Now we move on to, I believe Austin claimed, and I agree, UCLA will beat Michigan State, and they will make the run and face Texas. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is a tough game for me. I'm going to take Texas. However, I don't feel like UCLA is a team you can really sleep on right now. It would not surprise me if they beat Texas. However, I feel like Jericho Sims, uh, Matt Coleman, and the Texas gang will come to play, and they will win this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. Texas playing really well right now, and it definitely could be a close game, but I have them winning. Next, we go to UConn versus Alabama. Um, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have the upset here. I think UConn will beat Alabama. Alabama's never had this high of a seed really, and UConn will have more experience. I feel like throughout their roster. It's a tough thing for me to see Alabama going far because of their lack of experience. They have a tremendous offense, and I'm not definitely not doubting their abilities. However, I just see UConn winning this game because as of recent, especially in recent tournament history, they've just proven that they can actually move further in this tournament than Alabama can.
Yeah, I definitely agree. UConn's experience beating Alabama's inexperience. So now we can move on to the Southern bracket where we have Baylor versus Wisconsin. I'm still thinking Baylor wins this.
Yeah, I feel like this will be a close game because Wisconsin is another team with experience playing in a very hard conference, the Big Ten. But yeah, I think Baylor should win this game by at least 9 points. Wisconsin, they're just not playing their best basketball, and even though they are ranked at the end of the season, I just feel like Baylor is going to be too much on the opposite side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think we can move on to Winthrop versus UNT as we have them both upsetting in the first round. The 12th seed versus the 13th seed.
Yeah, so I'm going to take Winthrop. Most of the time, the 12 seed beats the 13 seed, and I'm agreeing with that right now. I feel like Winthrop's a better team, and UNT could definitely win this game because of the 3-and-D ball. But Winthrop, like I said, has only lost one game, and they've had a mildly hard schedule, and I think they'll continue their run against UNT.
Yeah, it would be sad to see UNT get out, but what you mentioned is a great reason for Winthrop to win. Now we head to Texas Tech versus Arkansas, and it's a difficult matchup in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Texas Tech. I think Mac McClung and their crew will win this game in a very close fashion, maybe a buzzer beater or something like that against Arkansas. I think Moses Moody will do his best, but I just don't see the rest of the Arkansas players coming to play like they should. And Texas Tech playing in a very tough Big 12 conference will outlast the SEC opponent.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Texas Tech pulling off that upset. Now we head to Virginia Tech versus Ohio State. I don't really see Ohio State losing this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Virginia Tech is a questionable team because they haven't played recently, so I could see them getting hot and winning this game. However, because I don't know, I'm going to proceed with caution here and take Ohio State, who almost won the Big Ten.
Yeah, and now we head to the other Big Ten team with Illinois. Illinois facing Loyola Chicago. I'm heavily favoring Illinois to make an incredible run in this tournament. So I think I believe that they can win this game just with the players I mentioned earlier in this episode.
Yeah, Coburn and Io play amazing, but I feel like this is going to be a much closer game than people anticipate. Loyola Chicago has one of the best defenses of all college basketball, so I feel like Illinois will win by at least 5 points, but it may be closer than that. I'm only taking Illinois because of the players I mentioned. I feel like other than that, they don't really have much of an advantage because of how well Loyola Chicago plays. But as long as Io and Coburn play their game, I feel like they'll at least have some sort of advantage that will carry them to victory.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you mentioned. That's a main reason. That's a main reason for my thinking too. Coburn though is not a good free throw shooter, so if it does come down to pretty close games and he's on the free throw line, it could be a bad thing for Illinois. But we have them winning, and next we face Tennessee versus Oklahoma State. I did mention Cade Cunningham, so I'm a little conflicted about who wins this game.
Yeah, I'm going to take Oklahoma State here. They're a younger roster, and Tennessee's really had some up and downs this season, and I really don't trust them against a team with Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's young, and I think that'll play into their favor here because I feel like they'll be fearless. They won't be overpowered by pressure, and I think Cade will lead them to a victory.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So Oklahoma wins. Next, we head to San Diego State versus West Virginia. Who you rolling with?
Yeah, so I think I'm rolling with West Virginia here. San Diego State has a great defense, but West Virginia can really shoot the three ball. And I just don't trust that San Diego State can keep up with them offensively, especially if West Virginia becomes hot from behind the arc.
Yeah, definitely a key thing to watch. Now we head to Houston versus Rutgers. I'm leaning a little bit towards Houston.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, Houston's one of my favorites to win the entire tournament, so uh, I feel like they'll handily defeat a Rutgers team that I feel like is underrated. However, I don't think they're a match for this Houston team, who's I think on a mission.
And we will see how they go on in the upcoming minutes. But we head back to Gonzaga versus Ohio. Gonzaga is unbeaten, but I still see them winning.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Gonzaga here. Jason Preston can only carry Ohio so far, and even though we have them to this point in the bracket, I really cannot see them winning this game.
Now we head to USC versus Iowa. I'm afraid USC's incredible run, as we predicted, may end here.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Iowa. USC does have defending abilities, and I just it's gonna be tough guarding the Player of the Year in Luka Garza. So I'm going to take uh, Iowa winning this game.
And Iowa will face Gonzaga in the Elite Eight, but we'll get to that later. Now we have Michigan versus Florida State. We did talk about our concerns about Michigan, so I think they may be on upset watch in this game.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be hard, but I'm going to take Florida State here. Uh, I it's conflicting, but I just feel like their defense will help halt. It'll also be their first game back for Isaiah Livers, and it's questionable whenever a player comes back for their first game how they're gonna play. So I will take Florida State to win this game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We've seen in the NBA just players come back, and it takes them a few games to get in, so it's not looking good for Isaiah Livers to come back and play well, which he will need to do if Michigan hopes to beat Florida State. Now we head to Texas versus UConn, and I think we mentioned UConn's experience, and I'm unsure about Texas' experience in the past few years. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to take man, this is tough. I'm gonna take UConn. I know Texas has some great players, but like you said, I just feel like UConn is on this hot streak, and even though they lost by 3 points against Creighton, I still feel like they're very confident in their abilities.
I definitely agree with that. And now we head to the Midwest bracket as we have Illinois versus. Oh, wait, did I mess up? No, my bad. Illinois versus Oklahoma State. Who do you got?
Yeah, so in the Illinois Oklahoma State matchup, I'm gonna have Illinois. I think Cade Cunningham can only carry this team so far, and I think Io and Coburn will take over and win this game.
Yeah, you mentioned that duo of Illinois, and you only have Cade Cunningham, and facing that incredible duo and just the other good players for Illinois will be tough for Oklahoma State to pull off the upset. And now we head to West Virginia versus Houston.
Yeah, so say again.
Considering what you said about Houston, I think we can have them move on.
Yeah, I think this will be a close game. West Virginia, like I said, can play great defense, but so can Houston. And I feel like it'll be a shootout from there, and I think Houston will take advantage.
Yeah, Houston's definitely a team as we saw them just demolish Cincinnati just to see how well they were shooting. I believe Grimes was a guy, one of the commentators, compared to Klay Thompson, which was definitely a high ceiling and a tough comp, but that's something to keep watch as Grimes shoots. Next, we head to the Southern bracket where we have Baylor versus Winthrop. I think Baylor wins this, even though it's tough with Winthrop.
Yeah, I'm going to take Baylor. I honestly feel like Winthrop could win this game, and I think it'll be much closer than people anticipate. Like most of these games I have on here, but I think Baylor will win by at least 7 points and move on to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with that, and we can move on to Texas Tech versus Ohio State. I'm afraid Texas Tech's incredible run might end here.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ohio State will beat Texas Tech. I just feel like Texas Tech doesn't really have the experience because they lost a lot of players that played on that Texas Tech team that went so far, and they have Mac McClung who played with Georgetown last season. I just don't feel like they have the players necessary to move on, and EJ Liddell will play amazing for Ohio State.
All right, so we have Ohio State heading to the Elite Eight, and now we head back to the West where we have the 1 seed versus the 2 seed. I still think Gonzaga wins, even though they aren't but unbeaten. As I've said that before, it's just I think they're on an incredible run right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Gonzaga here. Their team I think is just too overpowering offensively and defensively speaking, and even though they play in a weaker conference, I definitely feel like they have the skills to make the Final Four.
Now we head to Florida State versus UConn, both upsetting the teams in the Sweet 16. Who do you think wins this good matchup?
Yeah, I'm gonna take UConn. I feel like they're gonna stay hot and win hot. I feel like they're a team that they can beat any team in the nation.
All right, and we will talk about that more in the Final Four. But we head to Illinois versus Houston. Who do you got winning this matchup? Houston with the upset or Illinois?
Yeah, it's really close, but I'm gonna take Illinois. Houston, like I said, I think can win this thing, but they've fallen short as of late in tournaments, and I just don't feel like this is their year necessarily.
Yeah, we've already mentioned, but I think that duo of Io and Coburn will do really well and can propel Illinois to that win. Now we head to another 1 versus 2 seed, as we've had in 3 out of our 4 conferences. Baylor versus Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Baylor. They're a much better with Jared Butler. They're a much better defensively sound team, and I don't feel like Ohio State can defensively keep up. And I think Baylor should win this game by at least 7 points.
Now we are in the Final Four. So we got Gonzaga versus UConn. UConn is on an incredible run, but I think it could be a little scary with Gonzaga they haven't lost a game yet, but I still think they can win this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Gonzaga in a close game decided by 1 possession. Gonzaga, I feel like this is their year, and it'll take a lot to beat them, especially with how hot they are right now.
Now we head to the other game, and that would be Baylor versus Illinois. A very tough matchup, and I'm expecting a close game.
Yeah, this is another probably one possession, definitely not a double digit game, but I'm going to take IO and the crew from Illinois to win this game. I just feel like their star power overpowers Baylor, and we've seen Baylor lose to Oklahoma State recently, and I just feel like Illinois is the more uh, sound team right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that take. Now, in our championship game, we have Gonzaga versus Illinois. Who do you got winning?
I have Illinois winning the championship. I feel like again, star power plays a huge role, and their consistency around the board, even though it's not the same par as Gonzaga, I feel like those star players will help push them over. I'm anticipating throughout this entire tournament, as you can see, the IO has a great tournament, and I truly would be surprised if he doesn't. So that's why I have them winning the championship.
Yeah, Gonzaga just falls short, but I think them haven't them being unbeaten is a thing that could lead to them falling short in Illinois. Now, what do you have as the tiebreaker?
The tiebreaker is the added score, right?
No. In this one, we're doing March Madness for our
Oh.
listeners. So, how many points does the winner score, and how many points does the loser score?
So I feel like Illinois will score 79 points and Gonzaga will score 73.
Just a 6 point deficit with 79 to 73, and now that will be our bracket, which I believe concludes our episode. Now, let us know what you think. Feel free to create your own bracket, as this will be posted in the comments below. Now, our next episode, Austin and I will stay in college for another round and review the first four and the round of 64. Any final thoughts to close the episode?
Yeah, I'm thankful that the committee got this through. I'm glad to have college basketball back and March Madness here once again. Like I said, it's my favorite part of the year, so I'm excited to see these games. And right or wrong, I'm going to be happy either way.
Yeah, you could say March last year had its own type of madness, but now we're kind of the traditional March Madness this year, and it's definitely gonna be a great tournament to watch. And hope everyone participates in this bracket and have a great March Madness year, a year of March or month of March left.